because it had invented a new objection to ribbons, so that holy spirit would then pass from it to the new sect who invented a further objection to buttons, and from them it must inevitably pass to any rebel among them who shall choose to rise and say that he disapproves of trousers because of the existence of trouser buttons. Each succession in turn must be right because it is recent, and progress must progress by growing smaller and smaller. That is the progressive theory, the legacy of 17th century sectarianism, the dogma implied in much modern politics, and the evident enemy of democracy. Democracy is reproached with saying that the majority is always right, but progress says that the minority is always right. Progressives are the prophets, and unfortunately not all the people are prophets. Thus, in the atmosphere of this slowly dying sectarianism, anybody who chooses to prophesy and prohibit can tyrannize over the people. If he chooses to say that drinking is always wrong, or that kissing is always wrong, or that wearing buttons is always wrong, people are afraid to contradict him, for fear they should be contradicting their own great-grandchild. For their superstition is an inversion of the ancestor worship of China. And instead of vainly appealing to something that is dead, they appeal to something that may never be born. There is another cause of this strange servile disease in American democracy. It is to be found in American feminism, and feminist America is an entirely different thing from feminine America. I should say that the overwhelming majority of American girls laugh at their female politicians, at least as much as the majority of American men despise their male politicians. But though the aggressive feminists are a minority, they are, in this atmosphere which I have tried to analyse, the atmosphere in which there is a sort of sanctity about minority. And it is this superstition of seriousness that constitutes the most solid obstacle and exception to the general and almost conventional pressure of public opinion. When a fad is frankly felt to be anti-national, as was abolitionism before Civil War, or pro-Germanism in the Great War, or the suggestion of racial admixture in the South at all times, then the fad meets far less mercy than anywhere else in the world. It is snowed under and swept away. But when it does not thus directly challenge patriotism or popular ideas, a curious halo of hopeful solemnity surrounds it, merely because it is a fad, but above all if it is a feminine fad. The earnest lady reformer who really utters a warning against the social evil of beer or buttons is seen to be walking clothed in light, like a prophetess. Perhaps it is something of the holy aureole which the East sees shining around an idiot. But I think there is another explanation, feminine rather than feminist, and proceeding from normal women and not from abnormal idiots. It is something that involves an old controversy, but one upon which I have not, like so many politicians, changed my opinion. It concerns the particular fashion in which women tend to regard, or rather to disregard, the formal and legal rights of the citizen. In so far as this is a bias, it is a bias in the directly opposite direction from that now lightly alleged. There is a sort of underbred history going about, according to which women in the past have always been in the position of slaves. It is much more to the point to note that women have always been in the position of despots. They have been despotic because they ruled in an area where they had too much common sense to attempt to be constitutional. You cannot grant a constitution to a nursery, nor can babies assemble like barons and extort a great charter. Tommy cannot plead a habeas corpus against going to bed, and an infant cannot be tried by 12 other infants before he is put in a corner. And as there can be no laws or liberties in a nursery, the extension of feminism means that there shall be no more laws or liberties in a state than there are in a nursery. The woman does not really regard men as citizens, but as children. She may, if she is a humanitarian, love all mankind, but she does not respect it. Still less does she respect its votes. Now a man must be very blind nowadays not to see that there is a danger of a sort of amateur science or pseudo-science being made the excuse for every trick of tyranny and interference. Anybody who is not an anarchist agrees with having a policeman at the corner of the street. But the danger at present is that of finding the policeman halfway down the chimney, or even under the bed. In other words, it is a danger of turning the policeman into a sort of benevolent burglar. Against this protests are already being made, and will increasingly be made, if men retain any instinct of independence or dignity at all. But to complain of the woman interfering in the home will always sound like complaining of the oyster intruding into the oyster shell. To object that she has too much power over education will seem like objecting to a hen having too much to do with eggs. She has already been given an almost irresponsible power over a limited region in these things, and if that power is made infinite, it will be even more irresponsible. If she adds to her own power in the family all these alien fads external to the family, her power will not only be irresponsible but insane. She will be something which may well be called a nightmare of the nursery, a mad mother. But the point is that she will be mad about other nurseries as well as her own, or possibly instead of her own. The results will be interesting, but at least it is certain that under this softening influence, government of the people, by the people, for the people, will most assuredly perish from the earth. But there is always another possibility. Hints of it may be noted here and there like muffled gongs of doom. The other day some people preaching some low trick or other for running away from the glory of motherhood were suddenly silenced in New York by a voice of deep and democratic volume. The prigs who potter about the great plains are pygmies dancing round a sleeping giant. That which sleeps so far as they are concerned is the huge power of human unanimity and intolerance in the soul of America. At present the masses in the Middle West are indifferent to such fancies, or faintly attracted to them, as fashions of culture from the great cities. But any day it may not be so. Some lunatic may cut across their economic rights or their strange and buried religion, and then he will see something. He will find himself running like a black who has wronged a white woman, or a man who has set the prairie on fire. He will see something which the politicians fan in its sleep and flatter with the name of the people, which many reactionaries have cursed with the name of the mob, but which, in any case, has had under its feet the crowns of many kings. It was said that the voice of the people is the voice of God, and this at least is certain, that it can be the voice of God to the wicked. And the last antics of their arrogance shall stiffen before something enormous, such as towers in the last words that Job heard out of the whirlwind, and a voice they never knew shall tell them that his name is Leviathan, and he is Lord over all the children of pride. The end of section 22. The end of chapter 10.